4. This is our 4th skills video here, people. 4. Right? So for today's skills video, right, we are going to look at that document analysis, right? Now for this one, we have done these skills in class quite a lot, but not necessarily with writing, more of like looking at a document and analyzing it together, right? So now we have to use that analysis and put it into our essay. Okay, so let's again look back at that rubric, see what the points are saying. Again, we got that reference to my little post-it going on here. And so we're going to look through that, see what's happening, and we're actually going to kind of make everything more simple, and we're going to really focus on one of these particular ways you can do analysis of a document, because if it's easier, why do the harder ones? You don't get bonus. So let's break it down. Okay, so let's first look at that rubric. Oh, there's my channel video. All right, it's fine. Okay, so when we look at that rubric, again, this rubric is on the blog. You guys will have access to it. I showed in the last video on how to use documents, where to find this. All right, so when we go through here, all right, this, like last video, we had this part of evidence with the documents. We have outside evidence here. Right, now we get to our analysis and reasoning, right? Okay, this point down here, the complexity point, I'll have a separate video on that one. Right now we're only focusing on this, right? So when we look through here, there's a possibility of 2 points, right? So let's read through, see what is going on, right? So we have one document where we're explaining how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, and or audience is relevant to the argument. And then so you get 1 point for doing that for one document successfully. You get a second point if you do it for a second document successfully, right? And so here's a little bit of extra things in here, but this basically just repeats what we said over here, right? So you just need to do this analysis for 2 documents in order to get 2 points. So like we've done in the past, we definitely want to do this for 3 documents just to lock it in, but we're going to make sure we are doing this in a way that is not going to waste our time, since we don't have that much of it, and a way to really lock that in. Okay, so let's look over here. So when we've done document analysis before, right, there's been these different acronyms that people have used, right? So in my class, I like to use CAP because I like to think of it as like putting on your thinking cap. But you might have been in a class where you've used HAPPY or HAP, or you could have used HIP. All 3 of them are the same way, so I kind of made a little color code for you. So historical situation and context, intended audience, point of view, and purpose. When we've done activities in class with this, right, which again, fall semester definitely did this, spring semester, we were going to do it the 2 days after we left school. So definitely those people need to make sure that they're watching this, right? So when you do analysis of a document, you just have to pick one of these in order to do the analysis. You don't have to do it for all 4, okay? All right, also in here, let's go ahead and mark this up, okay? If I'm gonna do this, right, I don't have a lot of time, that's a situation, right? The 2 I'm gonna cross off right now are gonna be this one and this one, right? The reason for this is that the intended audience, a lot of times students want to look at a document and be like, this was a document made for the American people. It's U.S. history. They're all made for the American people. That's not going to cut it, right? So a lot of times students try intended audience, and unfortunately we get it wrong. The only time we're usually getting it right if it says in the sourcing, this was done for a group of farmers. And then we're like, hey, it's for a group of farmers because it literally told us in the sourcing of the document. So this one is sometimes a little trickier. Let's just get rid of it, right? Point of view, this only works if you know who the author is of the document. If we have secondary source documents from historians or from textbooks, we can't do this one at all, right? It's not even an option for us, right? So unless it's a document where we actually know who the person is and know what they are trying to talk about, this is not going to be very successful either. So these 2 are going to take a little bit more effort on our behalf, if they're even possible. So let's just cross them out. Okay, remember, you only have to do this document analysis is 1 time per document, and we want to do this for 3 documents to lock in those 2 points, right? Now, purpose, you might be able to do purpose on these, right? Purpose is basically what's the purpose of this document. So if it's, say, a propaganda document, that would be easier to do. If it's, say, a document from a textbook, you don't really have a purpose because the person writing it is not using that textbook to be like, oh, it's to help out American history students. They didn't care about that back in the day, so that's not the answer. So this one's like a maybe for me, right? The one I would do is this one right here, right? And the reason that this one is the easier one is because we're going to have our resource pages and resource sheets. That's going to be our packets, our notes, all that stuff. We're going to have that stuff with us, right? This is all of your terms and people that you've done for all of the different units in class, right? So if we have a document, right, and we're going to look at a couple here in just a second, and we can add, oh, this is referencing this thing, that's giving us our document analysis. Now, obviously, we can't just say, oh, it's referencing this thing. We have to give a little bit of explanation, just like everything. You can't just name drop, right? You have to give a little bit more background. But this is definitely the one I would focus on, because this is also going to be that outside information, right? Now, on here, this is a real quick tip, guys, okay? Your outside information and what you're using for your context or historical situation for your documents cannot be the same thing. These have to be separate items, okay? You cannot get 2 points for writing one thing once, okay? For each point, you have to do it multiple times. So if I have a document that is I'm going to give the context of that situation, right, and have some stuff I'm going to talk about, then later on in a new little itty bitty paragraph, right, I might add some extra outside information about that same situation, okay, right? So let's look at some examples here to see where that is going to be different. But again, this is going to be your terms and people that you're talking about for all of this. And again, if you got your notes, your packets, all of that stuff out, right, then you're good to go. This is where all this is going to be coming into play, right? So really having that stuff prepared is going to be really, really important. Okay, so let's go to that sample DBQ we looked at before. All right, here we go. So this was a sample one we used in the documents video before, right? So if we were going to go to, all right, I'm going to use this one as our, no, I'm going to use this one. They're very similar, right? So let's use document 4 here, these women that are working, okay? So for this, all right, I've already done my describing of my document, and I'm going to use this one also as an argument, so I'm getting my points there for arguing using this document and for describing it, and then I want to do my analysis. Okay, so I want to find the historical situation or context for this document, okay? So for my historical situation, I can talk in here about how women are going to be motivated to go to work, and we're going to use propaganda like Rosie the Riveter and those posters in order to have women joining the workforce to be part of the war effort, okay? So Rosie the Riveter is my name drop that I'm putting in there, all right? That is my term or person, right? Well, she's not really a person in real life, but you get the idea. That is going to be helping me give analysis to this document, right? Now, if I want outside information on this, I've already used Rosie. I can't use her again. I'm going to have another separate paragraph, and I might talk about the number of women going back to work, okay? And how the number of women that are working in these factories is going to be this huge astronomical number, and then talk about the reason why they are working, right? They're working because they are going to be helping out with that war effort, right? Helping the economy. They are getting and also they want to support their families because we just came out of the Great Depression, right? So that might be something I talk about. But also, my outside information could just be about people working, right? I might talk also about how during the Second World War, we're going to have the government is going to be passing different laws in order to have everybody go back to work. And that's going to include where we're going to have teenagers working, the elderly working, even having convicts working, and we're going to eliminate unemployment and also end the Great Depression. That's my outside information, right? None of that is in this document here, right? It's not necessarily about women, right? So I'm going to have my paragraph where I'm talking about women working. I'm going to have that Rosie the Riveter reference in here, and then I'm going to have a separate small little paragraph after this where I'm going to throw in this extra information. This is my extra info from outside of this document that is inside my brain that I know about this time period dealing with people working, right? And that's going to be my outside information. Okay, so, and again, the biggest thing I want you guys to do with this part here is that you guys know how to do this already. You're normally doing this anyhow when you're talking about your documents. So again, this is really easy, right? If we go back to that rubric, remember, you only have to do this for one document and you get 1 point, right? You do it for a second document successfully, you get 2 points. Again, I'm going to recommend 3 just to make sure we're locking in those points. Right, the third point over here in analysis and reasoning is complexity. We'll get to that later in a separate video, right? So if we go back and look at our little rubric that I made, okay? So remember, this is my Post-it mini rubric, okay, to go through all of this, right? So from our other videos, we talked about these ones, we talked about these, we also talked in the other video why I crossed this one out. Okay, now what we've just done, document analysis, if I do that for 2 documents successfully, again, I want to try 3 just in case I mess up. That means I got 2 points here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. All right, and I haven't done this one or that one. Okay, so again, if you get these, this DBQ on the 15th, right, you go through all your things, right, then you have a little bit more time and you want to try doing some more documents or then try the complexity, go for it, right? However, if you just ignore both of those and just focus on this part, the meat of their essay, right, you're going to get an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10 is going to get you a 5, guaranteed, right? I'm actually thinking a 5 is going to be less points than that, but if you got an 8, like, bam, you are gold. You're not going to have a problem at all. That's a 5. Okay, so definitely, focus here on all of these things going on, right? Now again, depending on what the question is, what the documents are going to depend on where you're going to be kind of messing around, playing with some of these here, okay? Right? Again, you might get some documents that you're like, I'm not super sure about those documents, right? You're going to do your contextualization and thesis, okay? You're going to have outside information, right? And you might have that description of 2 documents and do some analysis. You might not do that argument part, okay? That's okay. Look at how many points you can get if you take that one out. You're going to get 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10, I'm pretty sure is going to be a great, awesome score, right? So it's one of those things where some of these skills, we might be really good at using them as arguments, or we might be really good at that analysis. Right? We kind of have to pick and choose. And again, that's going to depend on how we are feeling about those particular documents and that particular question on that day. Okay? And so that's what we kind of have to prepare for. So hopefully this has helped out. Again, kind of take a quick note of this guy, all right? This purpose, you can still do purpose, and you can still do point of view and intended audience, right? I'm trying to give you guys some tips of how to get through this extremely stressful situation in a very easy way, okay? So I said it in my last video, and I'm going to say it again in this one. Definitely make this post-it, okay? Right? And while you're writing, check them all off. If you are taking AP European, this is the exact same rubric that they are using. If you know someone who's in AP World History, this is the exact same rubric they are using, right? So this is definitely something that I am going to, like, if I was taking this essay and I was writing it, I'm going to do this to make sure, did I do all the things that I'm being asked to? Because if I'm getting 2 points by having 2 pieces of outside evidence that I've explained, right, that's really easy for me to do and lock in some easy points. Also, this down here, the analysis of documents, I think this is fairly easy as well, right? The argument part, it depends on your style of writing, okay, right? So there's a way to kind of navigate through these different points to get as many as possible, right? Our next video I'll have will be on complexity, right? How to do that, right? And again, that's going to be a video that if you are feeling really confident about your writing, you've been doing all the practices, right? All the feedback I've been giving you has been great, and you're like, yeah, I want to know how to do this complexity as a backup, right? Go for it. If you are in the midst of trying to figure out contextualization, thesis, and this stuff with the documents, I might not even bother watching that video just because it might not be something that is going to be very helpful at this particular time preparing for your exam, okay? So again, let's go over a few ticket items before I leave you guys. So remember your tasks that you need to make sure you're completing. have your resource sheets, pages, packets, whatever you want to call them, all organized. So that basically means dig out all of your notes from class. Dig out all of your unit packets, right? All of that stuff. Put them in piles, period 3, period 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And then when you get that essay prompt and you see it's period 6 or whatever it might be, you can take that section right there, put everything else on the floor, really dramatically if you want to, it's up to you, right? And only focus on the ones that you have and spread it all out, and you have all your material there. So that way when you're looking for your outside evidence, you're looking for the situation of that particular topic, you can reference it right there. You don't have to memorize all the stuff like you would on a traditional AP test, okay? So that's going to be helpful, and that's why I told you guys to really focus then on that historical context / situation for these documents for your analysis, because you have those resources with you, right? So that's definitely the main thing you got to do, right? That second thing you need to be doing, make this guy, right? This is going to be super helpful. Yes, you could print out that file that I've been sharing with you guys that's also on the blog, but it's not really user friendly. I think this is way easier because it's short, sweet, and you just make some check marks in the boxes. Okay, so those are 2 things you need to do. The third thing I want you to do is try some of those practice DBQs, right? When there is the cutoff for the due date, that's when I'm reading through all of them and I'm giving people feedback, right? The very first one, I had kind of, some okay responses. As far as numbers, the people who did them tried really hard and they're working on this stuff. Remember, you guys are taking this exam like everyone else around the world, okay? So it's one of those things where it's not going to make it where they're going to grade it harder or anything like that, okay? So use this opportunity, all right? You've worked all this time, all right? You've already paid for your exam. Just get all your stuff together. So if you haven't started doing those reviews as those practices, definitely do those. If you are needing to review content from fall semester, definitely, right? Those students, you definitely would need to be watching those videos from College Board, because that's going to help you review that content. And if you also, another tip would be to make contextualization paragraphs for each of those time periods. If it's yours and you've already made it, you can use some of that information to type into your actual exam on exam day, right? Because that's your information of that time period. So as long as it is your own words and your own work, you're totally fine. And again, we'll talk about security issues, setup for your computer, possible problems with some technology here and there in a separate video that we'll do right before the exam, because that's stuff we don't really need to worry about right now, because it's just not something we need to worry about, right? So right now, practice, set up all your stuff, right? If you're prepared, you'll be fine, okay? If you wait till the last moment, just think about when you've had to do those packets and you wait till the last moment to do all of your terms and people, it's bad. It's awful, right? Okay, there's no ands, buts about it, right? So you really do need to make sure you're preparing, okay? So definitely do today, right, what you need to do, right? Don't put it off to tomorrow, because that time's going to run out really quickly on you guys, okay? So keep doing all these things. Whenever you have a question, please ask, right? If you don't ask, I cannot help you, right? And hopefully these videos have been helpful to work on these different skills. And again, I'm going to make a couple more, one on complexity, and then on those testing tips and stuff like that. Those ones will be coming to you guys soon. The testing tips one will be a little bit later, because we do have some AP teacher meetings that I still need to go to, and I'm going to try to put all of those little details together for you guys. And again, just keep going at it, right? You'll be fine. All right, we don't have that much time left. 2 weeks, guys, 2 weeks, okay? It's actually 2 o'clock right now on the 1st of May, and our exam is on the 15th of May at 2 o'clock, so literally 2 weeks. So keep going, all right? You'll be fine, right? And again, always send me those questions you got, all right? And I'll try to help you guys out as much as I can, all right? And until then, see you guys. Why is it not exiting? I'm gonna have to snip this.